So this is basic review. You've been doing this since 6th grade math. Most of you try to attempt these in your head, but you're going to come to find soon that some of the values you can't do in your head and the steps are going to increase. You need to understand the why and how it's happening. So the only way you will get credit when you're doing one-step equations is if you show what I'm going to show you now. So when we solve an equation, any equation moving forward from here on out, your step one is going to be locate the variable. And I want you to circle it. Circle the variable. That variable is the one that you're going to try and get by itself. Okay, that is your number one job, is to get the variable by itself. So what I want you to do is write that down. Number one goal. Get the variable alone. Okay, this is your number one goal, and it will always be your number one goal when you're solving equations. So after you've located the variable, circle it, because that's the one that you're focusing on. You have to determine what operation is tied to the variable. What do we mean by that? What operation is happening to the other items there? Then what we're going to do is we're going to use an inverse operation. So you're deciding, is it add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Is that what is happening with the variable? Then we use those inverse operations to both sides. We got to keep our equation balanced because that's what an equation is. And finally, we check our solutions. So inverse operations. The inverse of addition is subtraction. The inverse of multiplication is division. They're interchangeable. But there's one you need to add in. The inverse of squaring a number is taking the square root. So when something has a square root, to undo the square root symbol, we square it. So a square root symbol was what we did in the first chapter, and it looks like this. Squaring a number would be something like this. This is the square. This right here is our square. So it's really important that we understand that. So let's take a look. Here's what I mean, okay? So step one, circle your variable. There's my variable x. I have to determine what is happening, what operation is being done to the x. Okay, well, 7 is being added to the x. So since it's addition, I have to undo that 7 with subtraction. Now I said both sides. This is an imaginary line. The dashed line you just saw me draw on is imaginary. I drew it in. It does help students sometimes keep things balanced because what I do to one side, I must do to the other. This helps you identify your sides. And you're only ever doing it once to each side. Please do not do it more than once. So when I subtract, okay, I'm not subtracting anything from the x. The x is going to stay there. So 7 minus 7 is 0. It's kind of a pointless 0. It doesn't really need to be there. That 0 is just there as a placeholder, so we don't write it. And then -1 and -7 is -8. There's that grouping we worked on. So the answer to this question is x equals -8. Let's go do another one. Okay. So let's take a look. Here is my variable. What is happening to that? I am subtracting 11 from the x. So I'm going to identify where my sides are. That equal sign shows you your two sides. So to undo subtracting 11, I have to add 11. So if I go through, should be m instead of x. Again, we don't need that pointless 0, so we're going to get rid of it. -9 and 11 is 2. So we'd say m equals 2. So I'm going to fix that here because If the variable is an m, you need an m. Whatever the variable is, you need, because we're going to see as we get to word problems, they're going to represent things. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to try these 4 on your own right here. In order to get credit, you have to show the steps I showed. What steps am I referring to? Just here, okay? So that's addition and subtraction. Those 4, I want to see your work. What about multiplication and division? So I'm actually going to write this because the work is a little different when it comes to multiplying and dividing. So if we take a look, here, ladies and gentlemen, is my variable. What operation is happening when they're right next to each other? 4 is being multiplied. So I am multiplying a times 4. So to undo multiplication, I would divide, right? We all know that. But here's how I want you to see it. If we put in our dashed line, if I divide by 4 here, I'm also going to divide by 4 here. What happens is these 4's become a 1. 4 divided by 4 is 1a. We're going to bring down our equal sign. Negative divided by a positive is a negative, and I can do it. Sometimes the fraction doesn't work out, and you would just leave it as a fraction. But here, negative 24 divided by 4 is negative 6. Now, this 1a here, I don't need to write the 1, so I could just say a equals negative 6. Okay? So that's why you're going to see when these cross out, I won't be writing the 1. So let's go take a look at this next one. Be careful here because it is a negative number. So the operation is still multiplication. Here's my variable. I'm going to put my dash line. Negative 7 is being multiplied by p, so I divide by a negative 7. But if I do it here, I must do it here. These will cancel so that p equals a negative by a negative is a positive, and that is my answer. Okay? I'm going to do another one with you guys, but this time, take a look here. Here's my variable. Okay? If I look here, this fraction bar means to divide. That's why I did it here that way. So what is being divided? Well, n is being divided by 5. So here's how I want you to show it. I'm going to multiply both sides by 5 because the inverse of division is multiplication. If I do it on this side, I must do it on this side. Well, what do I mean sides? Look what I didn't draw. That equal sign divides them. So what happens here is this 5 and this 5 will cancel. That was the whole point. So that n will equal 45. I just multiply. Okay? Well, it doesn't change when I have a negative on the bottom. Here's my variable. I am dividing by a negative 8. So to undo that division, let me erase this for you. Okay. I'm going to multiply by negative 8. If I do it on the right side, I must do it on the left side. Why is this crossing out here? Because this negative 8 is really over 1. They cancel. And it just leaves me with r equals negative times a positive is a negative. Okay? So I'm wanting you guys to try these two by yourself. And I want you to be careful. I want you to take a look right here. There is a ninja 1 there. So this is really negative 1k equals 7. This is not solved until your variable is alone. 100% alone. Okay? So here's what I want you to know, and I hope you're listening. These will come up tomorrow. You're going to do these in your bell work. You don't have unlimited time, and it's going to cut into your class time. So if you show the work now and do some of this now, it'll save you some time. Okay? But in all honesty, we really need to talk. If you are not showing the steps that I showed, even for a 1 step, it will get marked wrong. It does not matter if your value is correct, it will get marked wrong. You have to show the justification. So please make sure you have all that work.